Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into security operations and incident management. Think of this as the absolute front line of cyber defense. It's the critical discipline where organizations have to detect, respond to, and most importantly, learn from security failures every single day. So let's kick things off with a pretty sobering fact. A huge number of security breaches aren't caused by some futuristic zero-day attack you see in movies. Nope. They happen because of known vulnerabilities, problems that already had a fix, a patch that just hadn't been applied. And this one idea really grounds our whole conversation. You see, effective security isn't just about fighting off some unknown future threat. It's about mastering the known risks that are right in front of us. So what is security operations and incident management, or so on, really? Well, on paper, it's the formal discipline for finding security failures and reacting to them. But it's so much more than just a dusty manual on a shelf. It's this dynamic mix of technology, well-defined processes, and, of course, sharp, skilled people, all working in concert to manage the absolute chaos of a security incident. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. We're going to follow the complete life cycle of a cyber incident. We'll start with how to prepare for the storm, then move into detecting those first faint signals, containing the damage, and then crucially, learning from the aftermath before we look at what the future holds. First up, preparation. Now, this is all the critical work that gets done before an attack even happens. It's easy to overlook, but let me tell you, the chaos of an actual incident response is almost always won or lost right here in the quiet, methodical work you do ahead of time. So, solid preparation really stands on 4 pillars. Now, the first 3 are probably what you'd expect, right? You need clear policies, formal response plans, and of course, rigorous risk assessments. But that 4th pillar, that's the one that's really interesting, and it's the most human, fostering what's called a just culture. And as it turns out, this is every bit as foundational as any piece of technology. And this idea of a just culture is absolutely vital. Think about it. In a blame culture, what happens? Mistakes get hidden. An employee might be too scared to report that they accidentally clicked on a suspicious link. A just culture completely flips that script. It replaces blame with accountability. But it's accountability for learning. So when something goes wrong, the first question isn't, who can we punish? It's, how did this happen, and how do we make our entire system stronger? All right, let's move into the next phase, detection. An attack is now underway. The challenge for the organization is to find it. And this is truly like trying to find a needle in a haystack, sifting through mountains and mountains of digital noise to find those faint, almost invisible signals of malicious activity. And to find that needle, a Security Operations Center, a SOC, has to watch everything. We're talking about analyzing network traffic, scouring OS and kernel logs for weird changes, checking application logs, DNS queries, basically alerts from every single machine. Each one of these sources is a potential piece of the puzzle. The problem? It's a massive flood of data, and that one tiny clue could be buried anywhere. So how in the world do you make sense of all that? I mean, a human analyst can't possibly read every single line of every log. And that's where a SIEM platform comes in. The best way to think of it is as the central brain of the Security Operations Center. It's constantly collecting and centralizing data from all those different sources, and then using intelligent rules to connect the dots. The name of the game here is distillation. A SIEM's main job is to take literally thousands, even millions, of tiny, seemingly unrelated events. A failed login over here, a strange network connection over there, and boil them all down into a single, actionable incident. It's designed to turn overwhelming noise into a clear, urgent signal that a human needs to look at right now. And we've now reached the climax of our story. The SIEM has fired off a critical alert, the analysts have confirmed it, we have an active breach. This is the moment it becomes all hands on deck, where the incident response team kicks into high gear to contain the threat and minimize the damage. So I want you to put yourself in their shoes for a second. The alarms are blaring. You've just confirmed there's an intruder in your network. What's your immediate priority? What is the very first move you make? The answers are never simple, and they demand a rock-solid framework for making critical decisions under some of the most intense pressure imaginable. And that prioritization is guided by frameworks like the CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System. So a vulnerability's base score might be technically severe. But then the temporal score asks, okay, but is there an active exploit for this out in the wild right now? And then the environmental score asks, does this vulnerability actually affect our most critical systems? It's this powerful combination of technical severity, the real-world threat, and business impact that gives responders a data-driven way to decide what to fix first. And those first moves, they're all about containment. It's about stopping the bleeding fast. Responders have this whole toolkit of immediate actions they can take. They can block malicious traffic at the firewall, they can completely isolate infected machines from the rest of the network, kill suspicious processes, and, of course, disable any user accounts they think have been compromised. Each action is a lever they can pull to stop the attacker's momentum in its tracks. Okay, the immediate threat is neutralized. The fire is out, but the work is far, far from over. In fact, this post-incident phase is where the real learning begins, ensuring the organization comes out of this stronger and better prepared for whatever comes next. And this learning process, it unfolds over time. In the first few hours after an incident, the main focus is just on getting systems back online. But then, in the days that follow, the team begins a really deep dive for the root cause. How did they get in? What did we miss? Those answers eventually become a formal report, and then, over the next few months, those lessons are integrated into everything. New policies, new tools, new training. This is how you close the loop and make sure the same mistake doesn't happen twice. Finally, let's look ahead. The world of cyber attacks isn't static. It's a constantly evolving battlefield. Attackers are getting faster, they're getting more sophisticated, and our security operations have to evolve right along with them just to keep up.
And one of the key evolutions we're seeing right now is this shift from SIEM platforms to what are called SOAR platforms. So if a SIEM is built to answer the question, what is happening? A SOAR platform is designed to answer, okay, what should we do about it and how can we do it automatically? SOAR stands for Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response. It's not just about analyzing the problem. It's about automating the solution to act at machine speed.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most critical question. The next frontier is already here. Attackers are starting to use AI to create malware that constantly changes and evades detection. So if the attacks are becoming automated, our defenses must be too. But is it really enough to just react faster? Or must our defensive systems evolve to a point where they can genuinely anticipate an attacker's next move? Now that is the grand challenge facing the next generation of security operations.